Good morning. Hi, this is Morning with Sheryl. I'm Sheryl. And normally, when I sit here and I talk to you, I have just a few points that, on notes in front of me, just in case I lose track because I'm a talker. And today I decided to do it completely without anything. This is completely unedited, it's just me talking. And it's also the way I remember things. You know how it is? You can go to a party and you can talk, uh, you can talk to people and whatever, experience the party. And if you talk to other people who were at that party, you will get completely different rememberings of from everyone that was there, right? So this is mine. In Christmas of 1998. I was pregnant with my second child, and we already had one. She had been born in '97, so she was almost two. And at that time, I was due. I want to say I was due in May or June. So this was Christmas time, and I miscarried. And if you've ever been through that, uh, it's a very for me it was a very mixed emotion time. I have a tendency to kind of compartmentalize feelings, especially as I've gotten older. I'm really good at putting things in boxes and saying this is how this was and this is, and just kind of putting it away. But it was at the time pretty devastating. Um, I was really ready to have this second baby, but it was just not viable. And my doctor was awesome. Basically said, "This is not your fault. Everything's fine with you. This baby just wasn't viable." Okay. But it still didn't change my mind about the fact that I didn't want to go through that again. I was already older. I was let's see, 1998. I would have just turned 36. So I was older, and so I would have been considered even like a high risk pregnancy, right? And so we had my husband and I had talked about adopting, and I had been a teacher for a very long time, so I knew that one way was to adopt a baby from another country or a baby from here, which those are really hard to find. But I also knew how many kids were in the foster care system. And so I said, if there's any way that we can look at kids that are already here that are just, you know, in a place that they didn't deserve to be, is there any way we can look into that? And, you know, my husband was fine with that. He thought it would be awesome. We just wanted more than one child. And so we went through adoption classes. Now, back in the day, um, Dave Thomas from Wendy's, he's the guy who started Wendy's hamburgers. He I think he was from Indiana. That's where we were. And he had done these TV shows and these commercials about adoption because he was adopted. And so we contacted that. They put us in contact then with Catholic Charities who had adoption slash classes to become foster care people. And so we took those classes. And I don't want to get too far into that rabbit hole, but eventually we were approved to adopt. I had real issue with fostering only because I felt like if a kid is put in foster care, there's a really good reason normally. And to have my final goal of putting them back into the environment they had come from, to me just seemed like it wasn't a great idea. unless that parent could prove that they could be a good parent, get them some education. But a lot of times that's not what those parents wanted. They wanted more drugs, more alcohol, and I'm not saying that that's the case for everyone who has kids taken. I'm just saying a lot of them, that environment that they were in was not a good place for them to be. So it was really hard for us to say, oh yeah, that's what we want to do. We really wanted to adopt children. And we were really seriously looking at just adopting one. We'd lost one. Let's adopt one. And when it came to them doing our home study, they looked at us and gave us the go-ahead that we were okay to adopt children. They started to have us look into who was available. And they brought a couple of them to us, but it was always a sibling group. It was never just one. We had talked about the fact that, we felt bad for siblings who would not be placed together. A lot of them had lived together in foster care, and we just felt like it wasn't very fair if they weren't able to stay together. And so I think they looked at us and went, suck us. No, not really. But, they knew that's how we felt. So they matched us up with the sibling group of 4 kids. And we looked at this picture and, oh my gosh, they were so adorable. Now, our daughter, like I said, she turned 2 during this process because she had a February birthday. And so here we are looking at this group and going, oh my gosh, they're so sweet. There's, there 4 of them. It was 1 boy and 3 girls. And we said, oh my gosh, well, then we realized that the picture that they showed us was not recent. It was an older picture. So they had been in foster care for several years together, but still in foster care for several years. And we realized how much older they were. And that became a worry. What kind of experiences have these kids had? Are we going to put them into our home with our 2-year-old, and what would that look like? So we just went to them and we said, there's too many of them and they're too old. We're just really concerned. And our caseworker said to us, well, how about if we let you meet them? Again, sucker, right? Because they said, maybe if you meet them, you'll get a feel for the foster care that they're coming from and what they're like and that kind of thing. So that's what we did. It was kind of against the rules, I think. But that's what we did. We ended up giving, they call it respite care. It means that you are kind of like babysitting for the kids who are in foster care for a day or two, like a weekend kind of thing, and giving the foster parents some time off, right? So that's how we masked it. We basically fibbed to the kids, and said that we were friends of their foster parents, and hey, we were just gonna take them for a weekend. I think that they saw through that a little bit because they were older. Spoiler alert, the one that we just had the party for yesterday, the reveal party for their first baby. He was 11, about to turn 12 when this was all happening. So yeah. Anyway, so here we are. We take them for a weekend. I want to say it was like March of 1999. We ended up taking them every weekend. 1 boy, 3 girls, plus our little one. So they spent the night at our house. We kind of got a feel for bedrooms and how to make that all work. And we did that until the 4th of July weekend of 1999, when the adoption committee sent our caseworker out to us. We were going to go camping for the weekend, still the respite care, right? We were going to go camping for the weekend with the kids. And she met us out at the foster home and basically said, "How would you like these two to be your parents?" And the kids cried and laughed, and they were very happy. I think they were happy, sad, honestly, because they had been pretty attached to the foster family. But the foster parents were, gosh, they were older than I am now. So that says something. They just said that they were too old. They just really couldn't take on these little ones full time forever and ever. Otherwise, I think they would have. So the good thing is they did come from a loving environment there as well. So we took them for the rest of the 4th of July. It was an interesting experience. And I know I'll talk more about this. I don't want to just give this, I know I'm giving a huge story right now, but being an adoptive parent comes with joy and heartache. And I think it's important that if you decide that that's something that you want to do, first of all, it's noble. It just is. And I'm not saying that for my own benefit at all, because there have been times, I'm telling you, where I went, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? But there's a lot of things that come with it, especially if you are adopting kids who are older, who have been in foster care. There's just sometimes some baggage that comes with it that you really have to go into it with a lot of grace and a lot of taking deep breaths and walking away from situations so that you don't say things that you wish you hadn't later. So I will say it was not the easiest thing. So that was July of 1999. Since then, that was when we were given custody of the kids. We went to court and legally adopted them in December of 1999. So we just had our quote unquote family day. And so that was 26 years ago that happened, right? It's a long time. So our youngest, oh my gosh, right before Christmas, the youngest of the ones that we adopted just turned, give me a second, 32, 33. What is she, 92? 33. Sorry. I had to do math in my head for a second. She just turned 33. So, and our oldest, he turned 38. He'll be 39 this summer. So yeah, my experience from then, I think is helpful when it comes to talking to people who have thought about adopting or have looked into the possibility. And I would say there were some really difficult times. There still are some things that kind of come up that make it difficult, but I would not choose anything different. I wouldn't. I look back and I think there's ways that it would have made my life a whole lot easier, right? But better? I don't think so. I think that the path that was chosen, or that we chose, depending on how you look at it, I just can't imagine it being any different. Right after we got the kids to 4th of July weekend, in August, I do believe, we realized that we were pregnant again. The nice thing about our youngest, who's 25 now, she'll be 26 in May. The really cool thing about all of that is that she became our baby, like all of our baby, right? The kids went through the pregnancy with me. She never knew anything different than the 5 kids that were above her, right? To her, that's all. I mean, she was not aware of anything until later on in her life. Obviously, she was told, and but it didn't make any difference. She's still super close to those that were not biologically related to her, but it didn't matter. They were brother and sisters. And anyway, so that's kind of the origins of my adoption story. Like I said, there's lots to talk about when it comes to adopting. And everybody's experiences are going to be different within our group, right? Of my 6 children and my ex-husband and I. Yeah, he's an ex-husband. He was here for Christmas. We're friends. But that's what I said. There are times when adopting kids is really taxing and difficult, and trust me, they are not the reason we divorced. But there was still a lot of just stress that came along with that I'm sure was not helpful. But we are in a great place now. Everything's good. And I'm very happy with where I am in my life right now. But yeah, it took its toll on a lot of things. However, still, I just can't imagine my life being any different. Anyway, if any of this touched you, if there's anything that you'd like to talk about, if you are considering adoption and you just want to kind of look at questions that you might have, I can give you my perspective. I can tell you all about what happened with me as a teacher. I can also talk to you about just children in general, and dealing with their little egos, and understanding that angelic children are not they're not there all the time. I mean, yeah, they lots of different personalities. But anyway, I thank you so much for joining me this morning. I really do. And my Christmas decorations, I do believe, might be coming down today. I don't know if you're here for check-in tomorrow and it's still there, please don't judge me. All right. Thank you so much again for joining me today. I really appreciate it. And I will see you tomorrow. Have a good day.